This is the second video in this series of making a carbon fiber seat cowl from scratch, using the seat itself for a pattern. And there's a lot of good information on here if you are new to carbon fiber work or just want to give making a part that's relatively easy to make a try. This would be a good video to check out. Now, on our channel, we do a lot of things that are a lot more complex than this. Paint work and restorations, rides. We go on group rides, among other things. A lot of cool stuff if you're into motorcycles or custom painting. And check out some of the other videos too. But this one, we're going to basically shape the part. Now, the first one, we did the layup. On this one, we're going to do the shaping of the part. Some interesting stuff. I'm sure you'll enjoy it in full 4K. Make your setting change. This is part 2 of our carbon fiber seat cowl project. And this is going to be the most time consuming. I'm going to try to keep the video from getting too long because a lot of this is going to be sanding, shaping, getting general fits, and then getting it to fit on a motorcycle. Now, it's very easy to think, well, if we had a female mold, we'd pull a part out, trim it, and we'd be done. But so we don't pay on that end, because if you make a female mold, you've got to make the part first. So this is like 6 of one, half a dozen of another. But this is a way that you can do it economically, and if you're comfortable sanding and shaping, basically doing body work like you would do on an old car, this will probably work for you. It's relatively straightforward, simple tools. Nothing here is high-tech, nothing that you shouldn't be able to do as a backyard mechanic. Now, of all the custom little carbon fiber parts I made for this, and there are many, this one is going to be the most, I guess, critical to getting the fit and finish really accurate, because you're going to see that it's right on top of the motorcycle. The fit and the finish, it's going to be a little time consuming. It may take the whole day today, I don't know, but we'll get that right and get it all fit up before we make the brackets and before we paint it. The temperature in my shop is usually around 65 degrees, and so I leave it by a heating vent. We're still at the part of the year where the heat is on. And it just helps cure that instead of leaving it in a colder part of the cellar. That'll speed that up and make it cure. 24 hours later, it's usually ready to go. We want to pull the part out of the saran wrap. These clamps, they're just disposable. And of course, the saran wrap is a really good way to have a good insurance that you're going to be able to get the part off. Now, I don't know how else you could do it other than some film, some of the Teflon sheeting that in the past I've gotten from Dave Midgley, but this is ordinary saran wrap. And we got the part off in one, no problem at all. Now, getting the saran wrap off the seat, of course, and I don't like to leave any tape on anything any longer than I have to. It leaves the gummy residue on there, especially in colder weather. So we want to get the seat out. That's the first step. Now I want to pull all the saran wrap that stays in there. And sometimes you have to take a little piece of sandpaper or whatever. Now, right about now, you want to really be careful, because everywhere there's a little strand of carbon fiber, it's a razor blade. And in the course of making this video, I did cut myself. And, and believe me, it doesn't add to your enjoyment. Now, as I looked at this, I was not real happy the way the edges came out. They kind of were just not as good as I thought they could be. I figured I'd give it a little more look over and see. But anytime you pull a part off, if there's a major defect in it or something, and a lot of times it's just something, in this case, this part didn't fit exactly the way I wanted to, up tight against the seat, and that meant it would be loose in the back, and just didn't have the shape I wanted. But I figured I'd trim it off a little bit, just make sure before I dispose of it and make another part. Using a Dremel tool, a good trick is use real Dremel bits, not the aftermarket ones. That's a really good tip. And once I cut this up and I did what I thought was the final look at how it's going to fit. Now see, the edges are not really laying down the way I wanted them to. Now I could have fixed this, and a lot of times you can just heat this with a heat gun and bend it. And I thought, you know, I'm going to look at this part for the rest of my life. I don't trade motorcycles once I put my heart and soul in them. And so who knows how long that's going to be, but I really don't want to see anything that's not as good as I can make it. So right about now I was thinking, should I make another part or should I try to salvage this part? And then I remember in the past when I'd put a lot of hours into something and be real sad that I didn't just make a new part. And so that's what I'm going to do here. But the good tip, always vacuum up the carbon fiber dust. Again, this was the kind of decision you have to make. I hate to say it, and from this point on, I'll be sanding with some discs on that hand sander, that block. Very handy. I'll still spend a little time looking at the fits and clean this up before you ever press it onto the seat. I want it to clean that up, press it onto the seat, because that'll leave the imprint into the seat material. And then once I'm happy with that, I'll make the decision. And right now I'm thinking, should I? And you don't want to. You want to make that as smooth as possible, of course. And so it is. Now that I've got the final part in place, and I see there's a gap there. I didn't like the way that didn't have a smooth edge. The gap wasn't right. And I'm not sure exactly why, but it doesn't matter. Making another part is roughly, well, 45 minutes to an hour. I already got the pattern made, so I decided to just make another part. And as usually happens in this kind of work, the second part went a lot faster. There's always a couple of good lessons, and I try to share them on the video, of course. And one of them is that I learned a long time ago, the hard way, of course, is if you're not happy with the original part, just make another one. It's easier to make another part than it is to do Bondo work and try to get some fit or finish that isn't right. In this case, this is less than an hour and we'll have another part, but we'll just lose a day in the project. Doesn't matter. We have other bikes to ride when it comes to riding days. But here's what was wrong with the original part, and I think I have a good solution to share. This part was not tucked down in, and because this is a curve, it didn't want to conform to the curve. Now what I'm doing, I put on layers of e-glass in between. So the layers of e-glass, instead of the thin carbon on top, I can take this and I can stretch it and pull it in. And I'll do this, I'll kind of babysit it as it's drying. Just keep pulling it in. I can actually put a clamp on this one. And so that it conforms to the part better. Otherwise, the skirts tend to just drift out. It didn't on the one I made for the 650, but for this one, the shape has this curve, and you really need to put some tension on that to bring it in. So, and the extra little e-glass isn't going to hurt anything. That's half ounce e-glass, ordinary modeling stuff you can get right from Brodak. So this day ends. We're going to put this up by the heating vent as soon as it cures up a little bit. And we punt the football, we take our loss, but it's always better. And I mean, the reason I want this part to be perfect, I don't buy and sell bikes. So I'm going to be looking at this part probably till the day I die. And if there's a flaw in it or something I could have made better, I'll be cursing myself out. And if I tough it out for the next couple days and make this perfect, and I guess we'll see on the videos. But we don't edit out the mistakes in the video. It was a mistake on my part. And this is why the videos have a good following, because you know the stuff on them is real. And I hope there's good information you could pick up on this too. Alright, so it's 24 hours later. The next day, it's always good to get a fresh start. And I never want to compromise or rush these things. That's an important lesson. So in this part, I looked at it real carefully. This one looks 100% better than that. Then the first one, of course, getting off the saran wrap, and the same thing applies. But again, the second part always seems to go faster. Super important. Get the big edges trimmed off. Same way with the Dremel tool. Nothing tricky there, nothing, it's redundant to the same, what we did the day before. Take the sanding block, clean up the inside, get rid of any sharp edges, and getting rid of sharp edges, I'm laughing at it because even at right now, there's still a lot of sharp edges on that part, and you got to handle it carefully, and you can see what happens if you don't handle it carefully. That's what happens. So with the inside cleaned up, it slides right on. And I looked at it from a lot of different angles, and in every way, it was a better part than the first one. all of the gaps that were bad on the first part and not nice and straight, this one was almost perfect. So now the thing is to trim off the extra, but I want to leave, I'm doing this with a Sharpie marker. That's where the seat ends, but I want to leave on at least 3/8 of an inch, so that when I go to do the final fit and attach it to the motorcycle, once the brackets are in place and I can put this right onto the other part, I can then fine tune the fit between the seat, the skirt of the seat, and the parts underneath it. And that is a critical thing. If you use this method, it'll work every time. Just leave it bigger than it has to be by a good amount. You can always take that sanding block and block sand some of it off. A lot easier than adding material. Now, another little trick that I use whenever I'm trimming, like I'm trimming here with that Dremel cutter, and believe me, the Dremel cutters are the only ones that last when you're cutting carbon fiber. You're cutting wood, not so much. When you're cutting carbon, buy a real Dremel tool bit, and they're expensive, but they do last. Now, I always leave the whole Sharpie line on and leave even a little extra. It's so much easier to take the sanding block or the power sander and just take a little bit off. But once you go too far, oh man, add that little extra bit. And then you got to build it up with carbon fiber. It's very annoying. Anyway, the inside of this now is smooth. It's not going to scratch or destroy or hurt the seat when I do these fits. And it'll also I want that seat, that cowl, to be a nice tight fit. I don't want to be riding down the road and it's flapping around like a diving board in the back. So this part of it, this gets time consuming and you don't really see it on the video, but if you leave it bigger than it has to be and then take a little bit off at a time, once you become a believer in that, ultimately at the end of the project you will have saved time. Every time you do it, you'll save time. So just like doing construction work or anything else, you rough everything in, and that's an important idea. Get it roughed in, make a pattern, and anybody that's a modeler will be familiar with how to make reasonable patterns. I'm doing this by eye, but then I'm going to go back and forth, trim it, see all the scrap in the back, until I want the back of the seat where it contours up just a little bit to be that I'm not sitting on that cowl or rubbing my jacket into it. Well, if I do, I'm going to have to redo it. But I estimated this the last time I rode the bike, how far back my jacket sit, and it looks like this might be the right amount. And I hope it is, of course, but I don't want to sit on it, and yet I want to have it as close as possible. So I'm just doing it by eye. I won't know till I'm done. Trimming it off again and not taking it all in one bite. Take a big bite, then a smaller bite, a little bit less. And in the very end, the last little bit I'll do with a sanding block. And again, it's a lot like modeling, where you're making a part for a model, or you want two things to fit together seamlessly. Take the biggest part first, and of course keep after that dust. I take those towels outside and just shake them out when they get that much dust on them. Now I got it roughed in. Now I want to take a piece of blue tape, looking carefully at where it's too big, and put what I think is going to be the new curve. But the way to do this now, I slid it back and saw where it was wrong, and I can see it needed a little bit more in the middle, a little bit more cutout. So doing it with the blue tape and doing it in 1/8 inch pieces, so much better than having to cut it too much and then you got to go back. And that is such an important lesson to learn. But these are basic skills. Once you develop them, there's a lot of other parts you can make, and relatively easy, and for sure inexpensively relative to buying. When I've bought carbon fiber parts, they're a fortune, and the real nice ones that Vlad gets, they're even more. So, and when you want that nice, beautiful, shiny finish on it, boy, but when you make it yourself, it's just a matter of hours in the shop. And that's why I have so much fun doing this and sharing the technology, because I know there's a lot of people out there that would like to have these one-of-a-kind parts. Look at the fit. Now I've got it real close. The rest of it I'll do with a sanding block. I'm not going to try to go Dremel anymore. And that where that seat curves up, I think I have that. Now I can take it outside and just smooth out that outer surface. Now the next step on this tends to get real messy. I used a power sander. Again, it's a Harbor Freight power sander, and the sanding starting with 80 grit and working down to finer grits. But roughing off that surface. Now when the surface comes out and you're looking at it as you take the part and pull off the saran wrap, it's hard to envision that it's probably half an hour or so with the power sander. And you've got to get this really smooth. And anybody that's done modeling knows it's just time consuming. There's nothing special going on here. And if you just keep going in random patterns and never hold it in one place and just grind away. And once you get the whole surface roughed up with 80, you can then go to what, 120 or 150 or whatever. But the grits, until you get it relatively smooth, and then from that point on, you just go to the block that we used earlier and finer and finer grits, but it won't really matter. Even if you left it with just 80 grit, what it would mean is, you'd probably have to sand the primer maybe once or twice or put more on there or whatever. Anyway, the whole idea of doing this and being very, very critical at this point in time, getting it so that whole part is flat. Because I don't want to use any Bondo. And if I do have to fill a little spot, and I want it to be just the end of a pin, I don't want to have a part that, I know these custom car things, they cover the whole car with Bondo and sand it. I don't want any of that. I want that surface, and that's all composite right there. That's no Bondo in this at all so far. Now, one final thing I try to make on all my videos is sequencing. I try to always encourage people, if you're new to this, try to copy the sequence I use, because by the time I make a video, I've already made several of these parts and I know what the pitfalls are. For instance, all of these trimming things and not trimming too much and letting it dry 24 hours before you start sanding away. It's called sequencing. It's called not getting the horse ahead of the cart. But it's on a lot of the videos. I emphasize just follow the way I've done it and you're probably going to have good results. So we got to the final shaping of the part. This is a rough shape. It doesn't have the final sanding, of course. But here's the part that I'm saving for the next video because it's going to be time consuming. Is to get the fit of the part, and I've done like I did on the 650. It takes a lot of time back and forth. Get that edge nice. I have to make a decision on what the final shape of this will be. And something that at the end of a job, sometimes you run into something that you didn't think was going to take a lot of time, but then you think, how am I going to do that? I'll show how I make the brackets that hold this on using some pretty tricky material that I came up with, and it seemed to work real well on a 650. That'll be on the next video, and then we'll start the finish. But even if you're just watching a video to see how this stuff is done, well, this is a part, because we used the male method, we have to put the finish on a part, but if we use the female method, we have to make the part. And then we have to make the mold. And then we have to make the part. So this way is like, it's a dirty job sanding this all out and getting it smooth, and getting the fits. But once we're done with this, we'll put the finish on it and go ride the motorcycle. And I'm trying not to let the videos get too long, even though we ran into a problem and added an extra day to the job. It's still going to come out perfect. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please hit the like button if you did, and thank you so much for watching.